Was tangible progress made today, Mario? As congressional leaders say, we're optimistic, we're getting close. Unclear how close we are, but we do know we're close to potentially a partial shutdown if it's not tidied up in the next few days.
Well, I think that there's some, you can take some positivity from the fact that they all sang from the same hymnal book, right? It was they were all in the same key in terms of optimism. That's something that we haven't necessarily always seen coming out of these meetings over the past, call it a year or so. We've been at the brink with the ultra-conservative wing of the Republican Party, bringing us right there to the shutdown about, 3 times in the last 6 months. Yeah. So the fact that you've got some bipartisanship in saying that there's optimism, I think, is optimistic for us, at least.
Well, singing from the same hymnal, true, with the exception of Mitch McConnell, because he wasn't there. Peggy, talk to me about the optics here. We know that he doesn't get along with or agree with Mike Johnson, specifically when it comes to funding for Ukraine. Have you ever seen a moment where the leadership split like this? He let Mike Johnson go out to the sticks alone, and he went back to Capitol Hill. Or was he trying to save Mike Johnson the embarrassment of having to disagree with him in public?
Well, I think, as Mario said, over the course of the past year, we've seen a lot of strife within the Republican Party. So I don't think this is the first time. But I do think that this divide on foreign policy and U.S. policy at the border in particular is one of the areas where the party is really coming apart in some ways, in the sense that today we saw that they're saying we're making good progress on keeping the government agencies open. But when it comes to funding Ukraine versus funding the border or making changes at the border, they're really at a breaking point.
Well, and it's very difficult for Speaker Johnson in particular to address not just trying to reach some compromise with the Democrats in the room, but trying to get consensus within his own conference. But he certainly said today, when addressing reporters after the meeting with the president, that he is trying literally around the clock. Take a listen.
We have been working in good faith around the clock every single day for months and weeks and over the last several days, quite literally around the clock, to get that job done. We're very optimistic. I hope that the other leaders came out here and told you the same. We believe that we can get to agreement on these issues and prevent a government shutdown, and that's our first responsibility.
Peggy, he says they've been working every day for months, barring that the House isn't even actually back yet from recess. They're not back until tomorrow. But it kind of speaks to the point that we have been trying for months to solve this funding battle. We've had 3 continuing resolutions. There's potentially going to need to be a 4th for at least some parts of the government to get this done. Can his speakership survive that when he had promised no more CRs? I just wonder how limited his options really are here.
Well, we have seen this movie before. I do think we also have to keep in mind that compared with last year, this year is an election year. So there's a couple of other pressures on the Republican Party this year because of that. One, that the American people are feeling that Washington is not doing enough and not functioning well. So do they add to that? And the other is really, how do they want the American people focused on dysfunction in the Republican Party, or do they want to be talking about the differences in policy and what they're doing on the border versus what the Democratic Party is, for example?
It was a stem winder of a tweet thread today from Chip Roy, of course, the Freedom Caucus. And he's been an agitator here. He doesn't like the business that the Speaker has been having in the House, and he doesn't like the plan that came over from the Senate. On this matter, though, he says if we want to achieve something different, we have to do something different. Pick a fight and win it. Does Mike Johnson actually know what he wants to do at this point, or are we going to figure this out all together at the end of the week?
I think that's the fear that you have, the worry that you have from the White House in particular, right? Because what we saw, again, over the last month and a half or so was that Republicans got exactly what they wanted on the border from Joe Biden and then pulled the rug from up under him because Donald Trump, the presumptive nominee or the expected nominee for the Republican nomination, essentially issued a warning to his, or call to his party to abandon it, right? So there is the sense that no one knows who's exactly pulling the strings there with Mike Johnson. Is he going to be deferential to Trump? Will he be out of line with Trump? Will he be out of line with some of those ultra-conservatives that gave him the gavel in the first place? That's the question.
Well, and of course, as we think about the way that border security was tied to other matters, it was tied to the supplemental package that would provide aid not just for Ukraine, but Israel as well. And finally, Mario, just on the Israel note, it's worth noting that as we speak, at least for the next hour or two, polls are open in Michigan for the primary, where President Biden has some competition from uncommitted because of a push by Arab Americans, Muslim Americans in that state who have disagreements with the president over Israel and Gaza. How big of a signal should be drawn from Michigan as we look ahead to the general election on how much this issue could be problematic for this incumbent president?
Well, Kailey, the White House and Democrats are trying to downplay it, right? They're trying to level set expectations. But anytime, Michigan is the crown jewel of the blue wall strategy of the Biden reelection bid, right? If there's a little bit of softness there or weakness there, that is a warning sign. Recall, Donald Trump won that state in 2016. It was fairly close in 2020. Mm-hmm. The fact that Biden has to kind of get this coalition back together with 8 months before the election is a troubling sign.